Talia.
Are you sure about what you heard? I asked, my tears finally kept at bay. He nodded his head. I'm sure. I was in the kitchen that night when I heard Luciano talking to someone on the phone. It was late at night, and it was eerily quiet, so I was able to hear their conversation quite well. A person named Reese called him that day? Yes, he said. And he told Luciano to come home because his life is in danger. I frowned. In danger? Because of what? Because of his father. I took a sharp intake of breath. He looked at me with concern. I don't know the details of Luciano's life, but why do I feel like his father is quite an important person? I pursed my lips together. Grandpa Ferry has always had good instincts. I sighed and looked down at my lap. He is. I vaguely said. And who is this Reese person? He asked. Reese, I muttered under my breath. Reese is my brother. His eyes widened in surprise, and his posture straightened. You have a brother? I chuckled coldly as I nodded my head. Yes, 3 of them, actually. But you told us back then that you didn't have a family. I'm sorry, I gently said. I do have a family, but I don't consider them as my family anymore. When I came here, to Amari Coast, I was determined to get a fresh start. I wanted to leave everything behind, so I decided to lie. I knew that I shouldn't have kept it from you, but it was my coping mechanism of some sort. Oh, Talia. I understand. This does not change anything, of course. I just feel like your story is much more complicated than I initially thought. I sighed. You have no idea, Grandpa Ferry. Then, he warily said, will you tell me? Will you tell your good old grandpa what's happening so he can help you? I bit my lip and thought about the consequences of what I was about to do right now. People who aren't involved in the Mafia should never be informed about the Mafia. However, it feels like I have no other choice. For Grandpa Ferry to truly help me, I have to tell him. I let out a deep breath and prepared to bare my true self to Grandpa. I grew up in a much more dangerous place than people expect me to be, I started off. He narrowed his eyes. How dangerous are we talking about here? Suburbs dangerous? Streets dangerous? Worse, I sighed. My family works for the Mafia. He stayed silent for a minute, still comprehending what I had just said. You're being serious, he said after a while, looking into my sincere eyes. I wish I wasn't. But you are, he said, leaning back on the couch, probably in shock at what I just told him. And your family really works for the Mafia. I nodded my head. He let out a deep breath before massaging his temples. That's a lot to take in. I know. I said. I didn't want to involve you in any of this. But you had to, he interrupted my statement. Through this way, I will fully understand how I can help you. Exactly. So, he cleared his throat after gathering his thoughts for a minute. What is your family's role in the Mafia? We're guards, I said. Part of the capo regime? He asked. I nodded my head. How did you know? I've watched quite a lot of Mafia-themed movies in my days, Talia. It was my favorite genre growing up. I chuckled. Well, sorry to burst your bubble, but the movies are not anything like the Mafia in real life. I already had a hunch, he said. It's quite glorified on the screens. I'm sure that it's much more gruesome when you're in the scene. I'm assuming that's why you left. Yeah, I said. I couldn't handle the pressure too well. And with Lucille in the picture, I had to make sure to place her safety as my #1 priority. You made the right decision, he praised. And how about Luciano? Is he part of the capo regime too? I pursed my lips together and shook my head. Oh, he said. Then, what's his role in the Mafia? He's the Don, Grandpa, the Mafia boss.
Sometime later.
Do you really want to do this? Grandpa Ferry asked for the nth time, holding onto my hand with a secure grip. I sighed and nodded my head. I was currently packing my bags to prepare for the long trip that I was going to take. I'm sure, Grandpa, I said. I already thought of this, and the best way for me to make sure that Luciano is safe is if I go to the Cosa Nostra. But, didn't you tell me that you had a violation in the clan? Would they let you off so easily once they see you? I honestly don't know, I said. He grasped my hands even tighter. Then, why are you going? Because I love Luciano, I exasperatedly said. His grip on my wrists loosened. I told myself years ago that I wasn't going to get involved with the Mafia anymore because I don't want to continuously live in harm. However, that fear has been surpassed by the love that I feel for Luciano. I don't think I can live, eat, or even breathe properly when I don't even know if he's safe or not. I need to go back to the Cosa Nostra, Grandpa. I'm just worried for your safety, he said in a sad tone. My expression softened as I looked into his worried face. I'm going to be all right, Grandpa. I already contacted my brother, Reese, and he told me that he'd ensure my safety there. He doesn't know to which extent he can protect me, but I'm confident with my brother's skills. There's really nothing I can say that can make me change your mind, huh? It's already final, Grandpa. I hope you respect my decision. He nodded his head and finally let go of my hand. I swung my backpack over my shoulder and made sure that my wallet and keys were in place. Do you already have a plan? He asked. I pursed my lips together. I'll figure it out, I said. I honestly don't know what I'm going to do once I get there. I just want to make sure that Luciano is safe, then I'll take it on from there. Talia, he said in a reprimanding tone. Grandpa, I said in the same tone. You have to trust me, okay? I'm going to be safe, and I'm going to come back, with Luciano. You know that I have to. I can't just leave Lucille all alone. Okay. He sighed. I trust you. You better update me about your safety every day, okay? I nodded my head. I'll make sure to call every day. Okay, he repeated. You don't have to worry about Lucille. I'll take care of her. I smiled, tightening my backpack around my shoulder before walking closer to him. We stared at each other for a few seconds before I wrapped him up in a warm embrace. Be safe, my child. I will, Grandpa. I will. We broke away from the hug with smiles on our faces. Well, he clapped his hands. You best be going. Lucille is not going to let you go once she sees you leave. I smiled melancholically. I already explained it to her last night. I just hope she understands. She's a smart child. I'm sure she will. Goodbye, then, I said. He clicked his tongue and shook his head. There are no goodbyes in this household, my child. I nodded my head. You're right, Grandpa. See you later. He smiled and nodded his head too. See you later.
Talia.
I peered at the gloomy mansion from the tinted window of the black car I was in. I placed my hand on the window switch to get a better look at the house I left years ago, but the driver cleared his throat before I could do so. I wouldn't do that if I were you, miss. I retreated my hand away from the switch like it was the bottom of a scorching pot. Sorry. I muttered under my breath and settled back down in my seat. I kept still until we made it to the parking lot of Reese's new office. Apparently, he now has his new space after being assigned to be Luciano's right hand. Thank you for the ride. I told the chauffeur that Reese had hired as I opened the car door. He merely nodded his head before speeding away from the driveway. I looked around the open area but ultimately decided to get inside since I knew that being exposed would only ruin my plan. I entered Reese's abode and was immediately greeted with a warm hug. My eyes widened in surprise as I felt my brother's arms around me. He was the brother that I considered to be the closest to my heart, yet we've never been affectionate to each other. So, having him hug me was still a surprising experience. I'm not complaining, though. After everything that went down for the last couple of days, I just really need a hug. You're really alive. he muttered under his breath. I smiled and broke away from our hug. Of course. You know that I'm not one to die without putting up a fight. I can't believe this, he said, squeezing my shoulders. I only ever heard stories from Don Luciano, but seeing you up close makes it more real. How are you? How's Lucille? You already know about her? He chuckled and nodded his head. She's the content of Don Luciano's stories whenever we have phone calls. Instead of talking about work, our conversation strays towards your family. I smiled as Luciano's smile came into my mind. It's a smile that I haven't seen in a week, so it brought sorrow to my heart as much as it also brings happiness. Just then, someone came down the stairs, someone familiar. Has she arrived? Daisy said, her hair bouncing as she went down the stairs. Oh my gosh, she has! She exclaimed as the two of us made eye contact. Daisy hasn't changed one bit ever since I left the Cosa Nostra. Her sense of style was still the same, very colorful and vibrant, and it appears like her personality's still bubbly too. However, I did notice that her lipstick was a bit smudged and her clothes were a bit wrinkled. I glanced at my brother and saw him looking at her with a soft glint in his eyes. A smirk appeared on my face as I looked at the two of them. I see. There must be something going on here. My thoughts were interrupted, however, when Daisy captured me in a warm hug. I was taken aback for a second, but I also wrapped my arms around her after a while. Daisy was my one and only friend back when we were still in the training system, and I can't deny the fact that I really did miss her. I missed you, I muttered under my breath. I missed you too, she said, tightening her hug around me. I can't believe you're right in front of me, she said, holding onto my shoulders. And you've gotten prettier too. Is that even possible? I chuckled and shook my head. You're exaggerating. I look the same. No, you really did become prettier, she insisted. It's probably because you're in love with Don Luciano. Shut up, I said, my cheeks reddening in embarrassment. I, however, did not deny her allegation. I really am in love with Luciano. How about you? I asked, determined to tease her. What are you doing in my brother's house? Her cheeks immediately warmed up, so my suspicions have been confirmed. We're working. She made up an excuse. I guard Luciano while he's his right hand. Of course, we're bound to work together. MMH, I nodded my head, not convinced. She rolled her eyes and shook her head. Reese cleared his throat and interrupted our conversation. I didn't miss the pink tint on his cheeks, of course, making my smirk even wider. I didn't tease him about it, however, since their relationship is probably still unclear based on their reactions. So, what are your plans after coming here? I pursed my lips together. I honestly don't have a plan. Reese's eyebrows raised in surprise. You don't have a plan? I nodded my head. I just came here as soon as you confirmed that Luciano had indeed come home. Do you know the details of what happened? He massaged the bridge of his nose. I'm honestly left in the dark. Since I am under Don Luciano now, I don't have much of a clue about what happens with the former Don. However, I do believe that this has something to do with him. He ordered me to have Don Luciano come home when he found out that he was in Amari Coast. I told him that he wouldn't be able to since he already filed for a leave, but he wasn't amused by that. Before I even knew it, Don Luciano was already home. I don't know the details of how he got back, but when I first saw him, he glanced at Daisy with a concerned look on his face. What happened? I asked, my heart thumping in my chest. He didn't look good. Daisy finished his sentence. He was stuck in the dungeon for 3 days with no food and water, and it seems like he had been beaten to a pulp. I felt my heart drop with the thought of Luciano starving and hurting by himself. Is he okay right now? He's out now, Reese said. And his body is definitely all better. I sighed in relief. Is there any way for me to meet him? The two of them shared a look once again, causing me to let out a small sigh. What now? Did something happen with him once again? Reese pursed his lips together before responding. That might be a little bit difficult. Why? I asked. Don't you guys work at the same office? We do, Daisy said. But he hasn't come to his office for a while now. He's always at the former Don's office. What is he doing there? We don't know, Reese responded. We haven't spoken to him ever since we saw him at the dungeons. I frowned. Then, how am I going to meet him? Well, the former Don always goes to bed early, Daisy said. So, let's strike at night time.
Talia.
Is the coast clear? I asked as Reese peeked out from the wall we were hiding in. Yeah, he quietly said. Don Emiliano just went to sleep, and Don Luciano just went to his office. We still have to be careful, though. We don't want to alarm any of his guards. I nodded my head. Let's head to the secret passage, then. They both nodded their heads. The secret passage to Luciano's office is known only by his former guards and Reese. Even his father, Don Emiliano, does not know of this secret passage. We went through the tiny space that led us to Luciano's office. My heart started beating faster in anticipation. I haven't seen my love for more than a week, and it's probably been the worst week of my life. I feel like one glimpse of him will instantly make me feel better. And I was right. After much struggle, we finally made it to Luciano's office. He was standing in the middle of the office with his back turned away from us. When he heard footsteps coming from behind him, though, he quickly turned around and assumed a fighting stance. However, I didn't give him any time to react as I ran into his arms and wrapped him in a warm embrace. I wrapped my arms around his waist and buried my face in his chest. I took in his scent and let out a sigh of satisfaction as I smelled his familiarity. Luciano. I said his name with so much love and tightened my arms around his waist to bring him even closer, if that was still possible. I frowned, however, when I didn't feel the usual amount of warmth when I hugged him. I glanced at his arms and saw that it was still by his side, completely unmoving. I looked up at his face to see if he was merely startled by my presence, causing him to be speechless, but my heart dropped when I saw him looking at me with such a cold expression. Luciano? I said his name once again, my embrace loosening a little bit. I missed you, I said, hoping you would say those words back. However, his cold expression remained, and he moved back, causing our embrace to break. He looked at the three of us with the same expression. What are you doing here? He asked in such a cold voice that it sent shivers down my spine. I saw Reese's and Daisy's expression change too. We were all obviously expecting him to be greeting us with more warmth. I looked back at his face and saw that the bruises on his face were now faded. That made me sigh in relief. However, it didn't take away the anxiousness I was feeling in my heart. Why does he suddenly seem like a different person? Did something happen over the course of the week that I didn't see him? Don, Reese bowed his head in respect. We have come here to escort Talia. She wanted to see you after everything that had happened. He frowned and crossed his arms in front of my chest. Did I give you permission to come here? I told you that I didn't want just anyone coming into my office from now on. Just anyone? Not even me? Am I just anyone now? Before I even knew it, I already felt tears brimming in my eyes. I glanced at Reese and saw him look at Luciano with resentment but held himself back. Daisy, however, did not hold herself back. What the fuck? She cursed loudly, surprising the three of us. Daisy, Luciano said in a reprimanding tone. Don't call my name, you bastard. Why are you acting so fucking cold when Talia made an effort to come here just to see if you're okay? Luciano closed his eyes and massaged the bridge of his nose. I don't want to be hearing this right now. Please. Get out! Daisy scoffed in disbelief. I can't believe this, she raked her hands through her hair. It's like you're reverting to your past self. Why the fuck are you running away from your problems again? Get out. They were shocked. Those words didn't come from Luciano. Instead, they came from me. What? Daisy asked. Get out, please, I said in a soft tone, looking at Reese and Daisy. I want to talk to him all alone, please. Daisy and Reese looked at each other before nodding their heads. We'll head out first, okay? Daisy said in a gentle tone. Don't you dare make her cry, or else, she threatened Luciano, pointing her index finger at him. Reese sighed and pulled her out of the room. Now that the two of us were left all alone, I honestly don't know what to say. I was definitely expecting him to be much more elated when he saw me. I cleared my throat and tugged on his sleeve to make him look at me. Luciano, I said. I don't know what happened, but can you please look at me? He sighed before looking into my eyes, the same cold expression on his face. I pursed my lips together as I kept holding onto his wrist. Are you all right? I asked, bringing up my hands to gently touch his bruises. He closed his eyes for a second and savored my touch. Does this hurt? He snapped out of his trance and swiftly backed away from me. I looked at him with a hurt expression, my hands still stuck in the air. You should also go back to Reese's home, he said. It's getting late. Then, tomorrow, let him have a driver to get you to the station so you can go back to Amari Coast. Luciano, I said his name once more. What happened? He definitely changed. He feels the way he did when Renee died, when he kept pushing me away. And I was determined to get to the bottom of this. Did something happen? You know you can tell me anything, right? Nothing happened, he sighed. I'm just tired of everything, okay? Tired of everything? I asked in disbelief. How about me? When you left me that day, I waited for 6 hours. 6 fucking hours under the cold, and you're telling me that you're tired of everything when I'm right here trying to fix the two of us? Quiet down. We don't want the others to hear about this. I scoffed and felt my eyes warming up. That's what you're concerned about? I asked in a softer tone. Why are you being like this? Are you really tired of everything? Are you tired of me? He avoided the question. Just leave, Talia. Don't you love me anymore? I asked in broken voice. He stopped in his tracks, but still, he did not answer my question. Talia, you're making this very difficult for me. He bit his lips. It's more difficult for me, I said, looking into his eyes with my glassy ones. Why are you pushing me away once more? I can't answer that. Just leave, please, he said in a desperate tone. Disappointment reigned over my heart. Okay, I said softly, a tear escaping my eye. I'll leave. He sighed. Thank you. But once I leave this room, I'm never going to come back. He snapped his gaze at me. Once I walk out of that door, you're never going to see me ever again. Not me. Not even Lucille. You won't be a part of our lives anymore. I started walking towards the door. I glanced back for a second and saw that he was still frozen in his original spot. So, if you want to stop me now, this is your last chance.